Massimo Faggioli, it's great to have you here on Connect5, a fellow church historian, so we have a lot in common, but we also have a great love for the Second Vatican Council, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. And specifically, the connection you see between the Council and Pope Francis, because it seems like since Pope Francis arrived on the scene in 2013, he's been like an embodiment of all the things that we studied theoretically about the Council and historically about the Council. What's the similarity or the bridge that you see between the two of them?
Well, there are many similarities. The first one is between Pope John, who called Vatican II in 1959, and Pope Francis. Their careers, their formation, their spiritual crisis, their physicality, their body. So that's one reason. The second reason is the sense that they both have, Pope John and Pope Francis, that the church needed to catch up with some delay between church culture and the secular culture, not in terms of adjusting or adapting or adopting everything, but to understand better what modern secular culture is. And so Pope John called Vatican II and Pope Francis called the Synod on the Family 2014-2015. But if you go through Pope Francis' speeches, messages, documents, there's a red line with Vatican II often, if not always, especially the most important document that Pope Francis quotes of the Second Vatican Council is the opening speech of the Second Vatican Council of October 1962, when Pope John says it's time to rediscover the medicine of mercy, and it's time not to look back at the past with nostalgia. So this is Pope John and this is Pope Francis. There are very, very interesting parallels between those two.
How do you see the theology, ecclesiology of Vatican II being lived out and implemented by Pope Francis?
It's very interesting because one of the most important documents of the Second Vatican Council that Pope Francis quotes directly or indirectly often is the last document of the Council, Gaudium et Spes, the Constitution on the Church in the modern world, which is the recapitulation of everything that Vatican II said in terms of a new vision of the Church on the world. So what Pope Francis calls le periferie, going to the peripheries, at the time of the Second Vatican Council was still in Latin ad extra. What is typical of Francis is his ability to be concrete and practical and say, our ad extra, our peripheries right now are identifiable in some places, in some situations. That's his way of making Vatican II relevant for the Church of today, not something that is just a thing of the past.
There are people in the Church who are not particularly thrilled with the direction that the Church is going. Do you see similarities there between that group of people, the critical-minded people of Francis, and the same people who are critical of the Council?
What is interesting is that in both cases, for Pope John and Pope Francis, the criticisms have been much more visible for their documents that have a political impact. For Pope John, Pacem in Terris, on peace and on human rights, and for Pope Francis on the environment and on the economy. So that tells me that their criticism is more political and cultural than theological. That's something that they have in common, and it says something on the fact that there's very little theological criticism that you can exercise against this Pope. It's a lack of trust in where this papal politics leads to. So they're afraid of a radical change in the shape of the Catholic Church in this global world, which is happening. So this is part of the natural way of the papacy to work within the Church.
And Pope Francis, just like John, just continues to go forward, it seems. So that's the direction that we're headed. Massimo Faggioli, thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.